A few days ago, there was a release of a song called Abundance of Millets, and this is to celebrate and promote the International Year of Millets. This year, 2023, we are at the halfway mark, and it all started back in 2018, where the Government of India made a request with the United Nations and FAO to have this year as the International Year of Millets. And India is the largest promoter of millets in the world right now, followed by Nigeria, and millets have been around for a very long time. But there has been different impressions on millets. For example, I remember watching a movie when I was a kid back in 90s where the scene was set in a prison and prisoners were being served lumps of ragi or ragi muda. And the people around me were like, "Ayo, they are being served all of these millets," and they were feeling quite sad about it. But over the years, we have seen a lot of change happen. We are also seeing five-star hotels, all the big restaurants serving millets. But even to go back, why do you think millets were pushed off the table and all of these refined products came in?
But you are a generation younger than me. So during my time, millets were prevalent very much in our diet. And I still remember millets, especially the ragi, jowar, we used to use quite often. And even jawar, those days they used to even make jawar rava, and once in a while we used to have that too. But as I grew up, I could feel that, all that went in the background, and lot of in the rice and the wheat, they had, it overtook all the millets. And so that is because with the green revolution came the hybrid seeds. Then lot of hybridization in the seeds happened, so that the rice and the wheat, especially the rice, which consumes lot of water for growing, you need lot of water, standing water for rice. So they made little hardy variety and they pushed these into the system. The farmers also resisted, but most parts of our country, as you know, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, UP, then coming to South, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, there are major dry parts of this in the states. Similarly, you have Andhra. One side you have the rice, it's a rice bowl of the entire country. But again, in the southern part of Andhra, which is called the Rayalaseema, there is no rain. So there's no chance of anybody growing, good quantity, large quantity of rice. So these, over a period of time, rice was pushed into the system. There was a study at that time too, many farmers, many villages were falling sick. So they wanted to know what was happening. When they went into this depth of this health issues, then they could make out, because there was a shift from millets to rice in south and wheat in the north. So all these things, it was like the fertilizers were pushed into the system. Similarly, the refined varieties and the grains with gluten were pushed into the system. That is how the millets went in the background. And over a period of time, more refinement happened with the rice, with the wheat. Even the coarse rice, unpolished rice became very super polished, and it lost all its nutrients. So that is how millets went in the background.
And millets also extend beyond India. Of course, in India, it has been around for thousands of years. We have millets mentioned in some of the ancient texts. There are recipes which date back thousands of years. But you also find the presence of millets in other Asian countries and African countries. And like we said before, India is the biggest producer of millets, followed closely by Nigeria. So there is a lot happening, and there is a revival which is happening with millets. But the other interesting thing that we see is, even when it comes to people researching on grains, any food grain, for example, a lot of it happens in the West. People who are not exposed to millets. And then we see all of those discussions around carbohydrates and proteins and fats, and which don't factor in some of these indigenous or the older grains which are present. Another interesting thing is, and this we've seen with the people that we interact, so people who are aware about the health benefits of millets eat millets, irrespective of how rich you are or where you stand in the society.
Yeah.
But there is an impression that if you have to move up in the society, millets is a poor man's food, and you're moving into consuming more refined products, which again leads to a lot of health issues. But why do you think we have that stigma? Probably is a strong word, but then the perception that if you have to move up in society, you have to move a little away from millets and probably eat refined products.
That I don't agree. What I feel is smart people, whether they are rich people or poor people, they catch up with the trend. They are very smart. They know the benefits and immediately they shift to all these things, But people who go just with not much awareness, just go by the, day after day according to the routine, they miss out on all these things. So you find now smart people adopting very quickly. So they have taken millets. Though they are very rich people, we find taking in millet as the major diet, and they have adapted to that. And poor people, of course, they eat every day. As I see the farmers, though they are growing rice for us, they do eat millets in their house because they know that it has got that strength. They have to do a lot of labor, a lot of hard work. So they need that kind of diet to support that. So now it is the stigma in the sense. Here, I say it is market driven. It is not that anybody goes and picks up anything. Now we are exposed to the digital media, so much of internet, so much of technology is there that, some product or the other is pushed. So that is how we are landed up with all these things. So the refinement is there. Human beings, we want to test out up to the extreme we have done and gone to the, to the other end. Now we are trying to get back. Some of us are trying to get back. But more awareness is required to understand how nutritious these millets are.
You mentioned the market, and here we are living in Hyderabad, and when we go to a supermarket, we are now seeing millets available, whether it is in the form of grains or flour or all of these different kinds, but there are millets available. And of course, there is online options that you can order. Now, when it comes to cooking, for somebody who hasn't gone into millets, and millets in many ways is the opposite of refined flour. So it doesn't have the ability to take in all of the flavor, the color. So you don't find these colorful millet products. And it also doesn't give you the fluffy cakes or the stretchy dough. But how difficult is it to cook millets on a regular basis when we are talking about at least having one meal of millet a day? How hard is it to actually cook?
For people who are used to it, is not hard. For them, it's a daily routine. But one thing I agree, there's very less gluten, or it is gluten-free, you can say, millets. And your wheat variety and rice, which has got that stickiness, when you pour water, they stick together and give that stretchy, chewy feeling when you eat. And also it is easy to roll out chapatis, make bread and all those things. But when it comes to millets, because now that we have pushed the millets out of our cuisine or out of our diet, and then now we are trying to pick it up, we have forgotten how to make millets, how to cook millets. So once again, this awareness is important, and people who know, they know the technique. You take for jawar, for example, and you take your wheat. You roll out chapati. It is so difficult to make a jawari roti, and it is so easy to make a wheat roti. It's because there is gluten. It stretches. You get your shape whatever you want. But this here, it cracks. But when you know the technique, how to bring in that stickiness in jawar, then it is easy. So lot of, once again, the whole recipes, awareness, how the technique should be again brought into the public. Then one day we may achieve, as quickly as we are making wheat chapati, we may be able to make jawar or bajra chapati.
So you are the chapati experts. I'll leave that to you when it comes to cooking. I've never actually successfully tried or I've found success making any chapati. But one thing to note is that, like you said, maybe there is a change in the future where millets can be incorporated in different ways. But the other thing to note is some of the pre-prepared products that we have might have millets in a big font on top of it, but they also might have a lot of other ingredients which give that stickiness, that starchiness, and it might not be the healthiest thing. So that is probably something to note. So you had millets when you were growing up back in the 60s and 70s. We grew up in the same city. So when I was growing up, you did prepare ragi puttu. I don't know how difficult it was for you to go and buy ragi back then. Maybe we did not have a lot of supermarkets. There definitely wasn't e-commerce to order. So we did have those aspects. Now let's talk about a few important things which are aligning to the sustainable development goals which are set by the United Nations. So we do have the health aspect, but there also is a positive impact that millet has had on the environment. There is evidence in history. There have been civilizations which have thrived and been successful because they had millets. Of course, things have changed. So there are a few goals that I would like to read out, which are stated by the FAO, which ties back to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So there are 17 goals all in all, but the ones which are connected to millets is zero hunger, good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth, responsible consumption and production, and there are also partnership goals. So in this case, it is climate action as well as life on land. Now, you have worked a lot with the farming community in India. You have consulted with farming communities outside as well. A lot of things that we are talking is coming from your experience being on the ground, looking at the cultivation, the growth, the marketing, the consumption, the entire life cycle of millets. So my first question is, if we go by the development goals and we are talking about zero hunger, one of the biggest problem that we face today is food security. How can millets help address food security at a global scale?
Actually, India achieved food security, but when I compared the chart of horticulture from last year to this year, there's a decline in many of the crops. That's because of the climate change. So now when you factor in millet as one of the crops and you try to promote it and people accept it, then even if we lose out the major crops to some extent, these millets can come very handy because one, they are very hardy and they have a lot of resilience. They can withstand drought. They don't need lot of water as the staple diet like rice or the wheat, and then it does not require any input of fertilizer. That's the beauty of millets, and you don't have to take much care about it. Will just grow. That is why millets, it was domesticated by the Indus Valley civilization. Still millet is there. Even today we are sitting and talking about millets. It's such an ancient grain. It has thrived and will thrive, and it will be very handy. As I said, it beats everything. It beats the climate, it beats the drought, it doesn't consume much water, it doesn't require fertilizer, it doesn't require much any of the things. But if you have it, as you said, I'm dealing with a lot of farmers. We have farmers doing natural farming practices. So one of the compulsory thing in natural farming is you cannot grow one crop. So invariably we recommend farmers to grow another or 2-3 crops together, and one of the crops is the millet, because this is again, you see, it will come handy for farmers. If they lose one crop, they'll have at least millets to sell. So it's like an insurance, and it is very good for the environment when it does not take so much of natural resources. It is towards the environment.
Right. And like you said before, it is market driven again. And we are seeing this change not only in India, but even in many countries across the globe. Now, when we talk about food security, there also is a time aspect that comes in. So when we compare millets to, let's say, rice or wheat, how much time does it take to sow and harvest millet versus rice or wheat?
See, millet we also promote as a fodder for the animals. It just takes 75 to 90 days. For millets like foxtail millet, you can grow, harvest it, and it is a good forage for the animals. Similarly, jawar, bajra and ragi, which are the major millets. There are major and minor millets. Major millets. These millets will take hardly 3 months to 4 months you can harvest, and you have a crop ready. And you can use it in natural farming as a border crop where the birds can come perch. Actually, you are inviting biodiversity. When you do natural farming, naturally the biodiversity comes back. So when the birds come, they also need some place to sit. So it also acts like a bird perch. And what we tell the farmer, if you put it on the border, the birds will eat that and they will also take care of your insects. So it is one way of, one of the methods to control the pest. So millets are even bird food, animal food, human food. It is packed with so much nutrition that it serves to everybody.
And am I right in assuming that when it comes to the purpose of millets being fodder for animals, you don't need to have any processing? You can
No, you just
harvest.
harvest.
You
And
just harvest and then use it as fodder. So that saves a little bit more time over there. That is something which is very brilliant.
ragi and foxtail are very good fodder.
Right.
They
And
basically millets are grasses. It's like hay. You put hay to the animal.
it is nutritious, and it's also nutritious to us human beings when it comes to consuming, and that's where we go with the other development goal, which is good health and well-being. And we've seen a lot of data about the health benefits. A few highlights are that it has low glycemic index and it is gluten free. But what other health benefits are there when it comes to millets?
Most of us, millets, we think it is gluten free, low glycemic index. These are the common, words we use and we understand too. But millets are a powerhouse of nutrition. They are packed with not only starch and protein, they are high on, magnesium, potassium, all that your body needs, and lot of minerals, vitamins, and fiber. That's the main thing. And millets are neutral or positive. They, they are very good for your gut health. So fiber, anyway, we all require fiber. So millets provide that. And in this way, if there is any digestive problem, if you have millets, will ease out that problem. In so many ways, it is millets, and they have a lot of antioxidants. They'll push out any foreign body if it is there in our body. So they work in so many ways. They push out the free radicals. They help you out, and then they lower the BP, your blood pressure, and they stabilize your insulin in the body. So this way, millets are superfood. You cannot deny that millets are superfood.
Absolutely. And if we look at the health benefits, there are plenty which comes along with millets, and there is evidence that people have been consuming it for a very long time, which is yet another thing. Now, if we move on to the other goal, which is decent work and economic growth. And when it comes to the farming community, there are many input costs which are required to grow any crop, whether it's a grain, a fruit, a vegetable, anything, there are many input costs. So when it comes to growing millets, how cost effective is it compared to some of the other grains that are grown?
See, the cost of cultivation as per conventional agriculture, it can be somewhere between 5,000 to 50,000 also, depending on the crop that you are growing. Rupees per acre. Because that much of, in conventional agriculture, they put fertilizers, they put pesticides to control the pest. Until it is harvested, you are always on tenterhooks for all these horticulture crops, chilies and spices and all these. But when it comes to millets, as I said before, that, in the previous thing, that you don't require any fertilizer, you don't require any pesticide. No? Millets just you grow, and if you're growing with natural methodology or chemical free farming you're doing, whatever you put for your farm is more than enough for any other crop. Right. Anyway, you are going to in a natural farming methodology, you have to do this multi-cropping. So millets become a part of that. So millets don't require that much of input cost. And what you're growing, when you say millet, it is the grain that you grow. Millet is the grain that you grow. It's not the fruit or the vegetable or the leaf. You're not eating that. You're eating the grain, which is also, as I said, fodder for the thing, and it's a bird food too. Birds come and pick up bird feed. So millets like this, so it doesn't require much any of the input costs, so it is economical to grow, and it does not use a lot of water, so you don't have to run your electric pump for a long time. You're saving on the electricity, on the diesel, and so it is environment friendly, economically viable, and what else you want.
Right. And do farmers need any special technique to grow millets? But I think I don't have to ask the question because it's been going on for a long time. But from your perspective, working on the ground, and we all often see farmers, of course, are driven by the market, what they grow. But there also is a huge influence of what other farmers around them are doing. And that in a way dictates what a farmer is growing for that season. So you worked in different states in India, and within the country, how much focus is given on millets from the farming community when it comes to the cultivation aspect or even sowing the seeds and moving in that direction?
The farmer is driven by the market to some extent. Smart farmers know what the market demands, but mostly that herd mentality is there. I mean, whatever their peers are doing, that they copy. And sometimes it so happens that they produce in large quantities. The supply becomes more than the demand, and the price drops. So in that way, they are not smart enough, I can say. And it comes to millets also, we experimented in 2020 or 2019, I think. They grew more than it was required by the market. Because see, the awareness of a particular product is also very important. And the acceptance of that product by the people is also very important. So you cannot simply go by the saying that, okay, I can grow millets, it doesn't require much water, I will grow the entire my farm only millets. But then if you don't have a market for that is why, as I said, natural farming itself promotes multi-cropping. And millet can be a part of it. Okay. So we have to be smart that we should find market for millets also and as well as other crops. In case other crops fail, then millet is always there for you to stand by, at least to feed your family. This is what I tell the farmers. So some insurance. But millet you cannot grow and you should know the demand. For that, a little bit of market research is required, which is not possible by the farming community unless somebody guides them.
Especially the small-scale farmers.
Small-scale farmers. If there is an FPO, yes, I do agree, because they can collectively put their heads together or somebody can guide them. When they're all small, marginal farmers scattered all over, then it becomes little difficult. But if there are some government schemes which promotes, like if it pushes the millets through the PDS system, say, people who aren't buying also will start buying because it will be at a subsidized rate. Then the government has committed to buy such large quantities. Then the farmers will get up to that demand. So that also it works, the other way around.
Before I ask the next question, I want to put in a disclaimer because the farming community in India is huge. You work with a few farmers, but among the people that you have worked with, is there an export market for millets or is that something futuristic?
Right now, the market for millets is whole grain. I have not come across a demand for a refined product like value added product, not refined, value added. We get so many in vermicelli in millets. We get noodles in millet. We get all these Maha millet, which we have been promoting for a long time now, almost 10 years I think. Mixture of all these sprouted millets made into flour and that's good for health. So all these things, they don't go out mostly because still that awareness has to come. And as you said, Africa and the Asian part, the dry to temperate regions of the globe and subtropical to tropical regions. This is where the millets, 70% of the millets are grown in Africa and Asian countries. And we top the production with 40% of the globe's production India does. When you see, you have to be realistic. You cannot push this millet into a place where people have never had or not seen the millet. For example, America or Europe, where they have had wheat all the time. So, and that has suited them for so long. Now, what is grown is subtropical. They need not adopt that. But we have a large market in the African and the Asian nations where you can promote millet and also show them the technique how to do. Then they may. But right now, the market is only for whole grain.
Also, in a way, covers the other goal of responsible consumption and production. What we are talking about. And the last goal which was stated for the International Year of Millets is a partnership goal, and this is a very important topic. It's one of the most debated topics, and this is about sustainability and climate change. In the past, we have seen awareness campaigns, we have seen discussions happen, but now we are also seeing a lot of action, a lot of policy changes, things which are happening on the ground. And of course, a lot more needs to happen, but there are a lot of positive changes that definitely need to be recognized. And particularly when we are talking about millets, you did mention the less amount of water it requires, and water is something which is very important for agriculture and also all the other costs. But just to reiterate the same point, how is growing millets reducing the carbon footprint in agriculture?
What I said before also, consumption of water is minimum. What I have observed from shifting from conventional agriculture to natural agriculture itself, natural way or chemical free agriculture itself, the reduction of usage of water has come down to 1/5. So when you reduce the consumption of water, which is a very scarce natural resource as far as we are concerned, then you reduce the usage of electricity, which is the fossil fuel again, the diesel. You reduce, because you use diesel also to run your motor and all that. So all these fossil fuels, when you reduce, that is, you are reducing the emissions, right? When you reduce these emissions, naturally the carbon footprint comes down. So you are not using the natural resource, you are not going to do a lot of emissions.
Right.
So this is a very climate smart crop. Millets are climate smart and very resilient, as I said. And the usage of water, you're not contaminating the environment with lot of loads of chemicals, which you normally do in conventional and other crops. Even farmers who are doing conventional farming, for millet, when it comes, they don't put anything, it simply grows. So this way your carbon footprint is very much reduced. But if you go to process millets beyond a point, for example, you take the grain, you dehusk and destone, yes, that is required for normal consumption.
Right.
Like you get all these cleansed, what I said, all these processes, dehusking, dehulking, destoning, if they do, sell it in the market, fine. Then you take it and make it into flour. But if you are going to refine the millets to an extent where you add some wheat, you add some maida to make it into noodles, to make it into biscuits.
Right.
So then I think we are losing out on that sustainability. Whatever sustainability we will gain, we will lose out on that. So we have to be very conscious and aware that till what point it is sustainable and why we should not stretch beyond that to lose that sustainability.
Well, millets are good, and like you said, it is a smart grain, and there are many benefits that we've been talking about. And one last question I have is the impact that chemicals have in the entire life cycle of agriculture, whether it is farmers using pesticides or insecticides, fertilizers. It has an effect on the land, it has an effect in the water bodies nearby, it has an impact on the farmers who are growing it, on the farmers who are harvesting, and of course all of us as we end up consuming it. Now millets are very tough crops, they need less water, and they also need less chemicals to boost them, less fertilizers. So is this a way in which we can also move into organic farming and reduce the usage of chemicals, because it has a negative impact on every single aspect, human beings, the earth, animals, and everything? So does millet support chemical free farming and moving away from some of those practices which are harmful?
It is. When you talk about India, we are consuming a lot of chemicals, chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers. Our market is about $90 billion. It's a huge market, and it's subsidized. When you have to think about the consumption, the subsidy it's given for this. All this you calculate and you see if you can shift the methodology from the conventional where you use a lot of chemicals and shift just production part. I'm not talking about post-harvest, value addition, packaging, extending your shelf life. All that we'll keep apart for some time. We'll just talk about the production part. This production itself is a $90 billion business. This much we are consuming and we are contaminating. Contaminating the entire environment in which we are living. Not only we, along with us, many creatures which are living are all getting affected by this carcinogenic chemicals. It is not simple chemical that doesn't affect you. It is affecting you. As you see, there are a lot of cancer incidents. Now you cannot deny it is not because of chemicals. It is because of chemicals. And secondly, you have so many infertility clinics. It is affecting us in so many ways. It is, all these cancer, infertility, then your central nervous system getting affected, your hormonal imbalances that we see almost everybody say PCOD. All women are having, most of them are having PCOD. What is this? Like this we have never heard. Now it is. Then, do you see any creature coming to your farm? No, we have lost all the biodiversity inside the soil, above the soil. No bird makes a nest in your farm because you are loaded the environment with so much chemicals. So when you look at in a larger picture, if you want to really live on this planet, anybody, as a producer or a trader or a consumer, everybody who eats food should really pause, introspect, and then have a very conscious decision we have to make. All these days we said global warming and climate change. There was a lot of talk, but only action has started recently. Some of us coming into all these things. Okay, some of us have been spreading the awareness, but we did not have the backup. The backing from a larger group or a government. Right now, the time is the right time, I feel. At the present moment, because now the government is backing, now the whole world has woken up to the climate change because it's affecting the health and it is affecting the livelihoods and it is affecting your very existence now. So everybody have understood and they have started now when you start the action, then let it be a proper action. As our Prime Minister has already committed in COP26, he has given his word, like we'll shift to sustainable agriculture. Now, what is that sustainability? This is what he meant, like by reducing so much of chemicals in the system where you're contaminating the land, contaminating the water, contaminating the air, you can't breathe fresh air, you are killing everybody around you, you are also getting affected. Farmers have a host of diseases, they suffer from host of diseases. Not only these major diseases which we see them suffering from lot of skin irritation, skin diseases. We see the women farmers, they have miscarriages. And we see these, not only farmers, lot of laborers are employed while picking during harvest and doing sowing also. The farmers cannot by themselves do, so they hire laborers. So women are invariably employed there to do these things. So they get affected very badly. Studies have also shown, recent studies, that a mother's milk is also having chemicals. So the mother is also giving a chemically contaminated milk, feeding milk to her baby. So this kind of the chemical has gone into our system so much that it is threatening our very existence. So one shift from conventional to organic or natural, that is one way of doing. Second thing, again, crop selection, as we were talking.
Right.
Which is more sustainable, which does not drain out the resources, natural resources. That shift has to happen. And consumers also should be educated that these are superfood, these are healthy food. How you brainwash to push some of the things like gluten, stretchy things, full of gluten. You have already done totally processed, super processed foods. Already are there in the market, ready packaged food. Just open the packet and you have pushed all those things. Simply the consumer has not accepted it because you are brainwashed.
Yep.
Similar reverse brainwash has to happen in order to consumer also demand, so that the producer, when he produces, he finds a market and there is a match between these two. Only then the sustainability, stability, all these things will come into existence.
Absolutely. And millets is a great way to achieve all of that. Yeah. And of course, it is the International Year of Millets.
Yeah.
And things have changed from the time I saw a scene where millets are being depicted as present food to now being promoted internationally. And we are also having songs around it. So it's a great change that is happening. And of course, it's all market driven. And there's a lot that all of us can do together. Well, this has been a good conversation. We'll be having lots more. We will be talking more about millets as we go along. But then again, thank you everybody for listening. This is the International Year of Millets.
Thank you.